There is a kind of quiet that only exists at night. Not the kind you notice right away. Not the kind where everything goes completely silent. No, this quiet is softer than that. It settles in slowly. It wraps itself around the land like a blanket that's just a little too thin to keep the cold out. If you were standing here, right now, you might not even realize how quiet it really is. There is still sound. A faint breeze brushing through tall grass. A distant creak of wood somewhere far off. Maybe the soft shift of something unseen in the dark. But even those sounds feel careful. As if the world itself is trying not to disturb something. Above, the sky stretches wide and open. Stars scattered across it, steady and indifferent. They have seen nights like this before. Many times in many places. They don't hurry. They don't warn anyone. They simply remain. The moon hangs low, casting a pale light across the ground. Not bright enough to reveal everything. Just enough to suggest shapes. A hill here. A line of trees there. The faint outline of something that looks like it could be a road, or maybe just a worn path where people have walked for years without thinking much about it. Tonight, that path is empty. No travelers. No carts. No voices. Just the quiet. And yet, this place is not as empty as it seems. If you look closely, or maybe if you just let your eyes adjust long enough, you'll begin to notice small points of light in the distance. At first, they might look like stars that have somehow drifted down to Earth. But they are not stars. They flicker. They shift. They move slightly as if they're breathing. Campfires. Dozens of them. Spread out across the land in uneven patterns. Some clustered together, others standing alone. Each one surrounded by shadows that stretch and bend as the flames dance quietly in the dark. From this distance, they almost look peaceful. Like a gathering. Like something warm. But the truth is, those fires should not be here. Not like this. Not so many. Not all at once. Because each of those small, glowing lights marks a presence. And not just any presence. Hundreds. No, thousands. Resting. Waiting. Trying in their own ways to make this night feel like any other night. But it isn't. And somewhere, deep down, they know it. The air carries a strange kind of stillness tonight. Not empty. Not calm in the way a quiet countryside usually feels. This is something else. This is the kind of stillness that comes before something changes. You can almost feel it pressing down, gently but firmly, like a hand resting on your shoulder. Not pushing. Just reminding you that it's there. If you were to walk closer to those distant fires, the quiet would begin to shift. Not break. Just change shape. You would hear low voices. Soft conversations that don't travel very far. Words spoken more for comfort than for meaning. A quiet laugh here and there. The kind that fades quickly. Someone adjusting their gear. Metal touching metal with a soft, careful sound. The occasional cough. Nothing loud. Nothing sudden. Even the horses, if you happen to pass near them, seem calmer than usual. They shift their weight, snort softly, but they don't pull or panic. It's as if they, too, understand that something is coming and that there is nothing to be done about it tonight. So they wait, just like the men, just like the land, just like everything else. Because tonight is not a night for action. It's a night for breathing, for sitting, for staring into a fire a little longer than usual, for thinking thoughts that don't quite form into full sentences. And maybe for not thinking at all. There's a strange comfort in that. Even here. Even now. Because as long as the night continues, nothing has happened yet. Tomorrow is still tomorrow. And tomorrow can be delayed just a little by staying here in the quiet. By letting time stretch out. By focusing on small things. The warmth of the fire. The weight of the ground beneath you. The steady rhythm of your own breathing. In moments like this, the mind does something interesting. It doesn't rush ahead the way you might expect. It doesn't always jump straight to fear or worry. Sometimes it drifts backwards to familiar places. A road you've walked before. A voice you remember. The simple comfort of something ordinary. A meal, a room, a face. It's almost funny in a quiet kind of way. Out of all the things happening here tonight, the mind chooses to wander somewhere else entirely, as if it's gently saying, let's not deal with all of that just yet. And honestly, that might not be the worst idea, because this night is not meant to be rushed through. It lingers, it stretches, it exists in that space between what has already happened and what cannot be avoided. The pause, a long inhale, the kind you take without realizing it, and hold, just a little longer than usual. Out beyond the fires, the land continues in darkness. Fields, hills, and quiet paths that don't care who walks them or why. They've seen people come and go before. They will again. The grass moves gently in the breeze, whispering in a language no one really understands. The trees stand still, their branches barely shifting. Nothing here feels urgent. Nothing here feels loud. And yet, everything feels important. Not because of what is happening, but because of what is about to. If you listen closely, and you take your time, you might notice something else. Not a sound, not a movement, just a feeling. A quiet awareness that this moment, this exact stretch of time, will not come again. That this version of the world, peaceful, still, untouched, is already beginning to slip away. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just slowly. Like the last few minutes before sleep. Or the final notes of a song that fades so gently you almost don't notice it ending. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. History, the kind that fills books and gets remembered for generations, doesn't always begin with noise. Sometimes it begins like this, with a quiet night, a few scattered fires, and a world that hasn't changed yet, but will, very soon. If you stay here a little longer, and let your eyes adjust just a bit more, the land begins to reveal itself. Not all at once. It doesn't rush. It never has. The shapes become clearer first. The gentle rise of a hill. The long stretch of open ground. A thin line of darker shadow where trees stand close together, their branches woven into something almost solid. This place wasn't always like this. Not empty. Not waiting. Long before the fires arrived, before the quiet tension settled in, this land was just land. Simple. Unbothered. It didn't belong to history yet. During the day, it would have looked almost ordinary. Maybe even forgettable. The kind of place you pass through without stopping. The kind of place where nothing important seems to happen. And maybe, for a long time, that was true. There were seasons here. Endless, repeating, patient seasons. Spring would soften the ground, bringing fresh green shoots through the soil. Small flowers, scattered without pattern, just growing where they pleased. No one arranging them. No one watching. Summer would stretch wide and warm. The grass taller then, brushing against knees as people walked through. Insects humming lazily in the heat, going about their tiny, very important lives. Autumn would arrive quietly, like it always does. Leaves shifting in color, one by one, without asking for attention. A slow change. Easy to miss if you weren't paying close enough attention. And winter. Well, winter would strip everything back. Leave the land bare and open. Honest, in a way. No distractions. Just earth, sky, and whatever chose to endure the cold. It's strange to think about now, because tonight, none of that feels close. But it's still here, underneath everything, beneath the footprints, beneath the weight of boots and wheels and restless movement, beneath the fires that burn just a little too brightly for a place like this. The land hasn't gone anywhere. It's just waiting. There were people here once, too. Not armies. Not men preparing for something they don't fully talk about. Just ordinary people. Farmers, most likely. People who woke up early, not because they had to march anywhere, but because the sun had already decided it was time to begin the day. They would have walked these same paths, maybe not thinking much about them, just walking because that's where the ground was easiest to cross. They would have known the shape of the land without needing to look. Known where the soil was soft, where it held water after rain, where it cracked under the heat. There might have been a small house somewhere nearby. Or maybe a few. Nothing grand. Nothing meant to last forever. Just wood and stone, built carefully, repaired often. A place where someone once sat by a fire, not unlike the ones you see now, but for very different reasons. cooking, resting, talking about small things. Things that didn't need to be remembered. And that's the part that feels almost unfair. Those lives, those quiet, ordinary days, they don't get recorded the way tomorrow will. No one writes long accounts of a peaceful afternoon. No one marks the exact moment when nothing happened. And yet, those moments made up almost everything. The land remembers them. In its own way. Not with thoughts. Not with memory the way we understand it. But with presence. With continuity. The same ground that held careful footsteps now holds heavier ones. The same open space that once carried the sound of wind and insects now carries something else entirely. Something harder to describe, but easy to feel. A kind of pressure. As if the land itself knows it is about to be asked to hold more than it should. Still, it doesn't resist. It never has. The hill, just beyond the nearest line of fires, rises gently into the dark. From up there, if you could stand at its highest point, you would see everything laid out in quiet detail. The scattered lights. The faint lines where groups have gathered. The empty spaces in between. It would almost look peaceful from above. Balanced. Orderly even. But that's the strange thing about distance. It smooths everything out. It hides the details that matter most. Down here on the ground, the land feels different. Closer. Heavier. More real. You can feel the unevenness beneath your feet. The subtle dips and rises that don't show from far away. The patches of earth that shift just slightly when you step on them. This is not a perfect place. It was never meant to be. And maybe that's why it matters. Because places like this, quiet, ordinary, unnoticed, are the ones that change the most. Not because they want to, but because they are chosen. Or perhaps, because they are simply there when the moment arrives. The trees at the far edge of the field stand close together, their trunks forming a kind of natural boundary. They don't move much tonight. Just the occasional whisper of leaves brushing against each other. They have been here longer than anyone currently standing in this field. Longer than the farmers. Longer than the paths. They have seen storms come and go. Seasons pass in slow cycles. Years stacking quietly on top of each other without announcement. And now, they stand at the edge of something else entirely, watching in the only way trees can. Still, silent, present. There's a small dip in the ground near the center of the field. Easy to miss in the dark. Just a slight lowering of the earth where water might gather after rain. Tonight, it's dry, empty, unremarkable. If you walked past it, you probably wouldn't give it a second thought. And yet, places like that have a way of becoming important later. Not because they are special now, but because of what happens around them, or within them. The land doesn't choose what it becomes part of. It doesn't decide what will be remembered. It simply exists until something gives it a story. And tomorrow, it will have one. A story that will be told and retold. A story that will stretch far beyond this field, beyond these hills, beyond this quiet night. But right now, none of that has happened yet. Right now, the land is still what it has always been. Open, patient, unaware of the names it will one day carry. Unaware of the way people will speak about it, years from now, as if it had always been meant for this. There is something almost comforting in that. The idea that even on the edge of something so large, the world itself remains unchanged. At least for a little while longer. The fires continue to flicker in the distance. The wind moves softly through the grass, and the land holds everything just as it always has. Quietly, without question, waiting.